This video is for anyone showing signs and symptoms of a lumbar disc herniation and or Cauda Equina Syndrome. Basically, I just want to share my experience and hopefully help anybody who may be in the same situation.
So I just got phone with a doctor, and he asked if I wanted to have surgery on my back for my disc bulge. It's pretty concerning, kind of scary. I'm gonna have an MRI first and see where it goes. But the reason I'm considering surgery, did I say I'm considering surgery? Is because my right foot is still numb, but more importantly, it has lost some motor control. So it's weak, can't really lift or flex, dorsiflex my foot. It's weak.
So I've been having back pain whenever I exercised too much or too intensely for the last maybe year and a half. So whenever I would do anything, and I do a lot of sports or did a lot of sports, and I like working out at high intensities. And whenever I would do that, the next day I would wake up crooked and with back, all the muscles in my back had been, were in spasm, and basically I would be stuck this way for, anything from 3 days to 2 weeks, depending on how I decided to treat or how inflamed it was. And that went on and off, and I don't know why I never really looked into it more. Now in retrospect, I should have. The last straw, I guess, that broke the camel's back was recent. So maybe 3 weeks ago, I went biking up a mountain here, a local mountain, Seymour Mountain, and came back that day was fine. Maybe the next day woke up pretty crooked again. I wasn't able to stand up straight, and it was really bad this time. I would be crawling on the floor trying to go to the bathroom. Oh man, it's like the same story. Everybody has very similar stories. So I did that. I stayed on the ground for that week, just using a ball to massage and release the muscles in my back. Saw an osteopath a couple of times, and by the end of the week I was standing up straight. But then that's when the sciatica kicked in, and I had never had that before. So as you've all probably heard, it's like sharp shooting pain down your legs, like electrifying, hot. It's really intense. I've never had pain that badly. I was on the floor screaming out of the top of my lungs, like, what's going on with my body? My tailbone felt inflamed, and every position just aggravated it. So anyway, I spent 3 days moaning and groaning and trying to sleep and trying to find the one position that hurt less. But I could feel like the current going down and hitting like my the head of the tibula or the fibula, head of the fibula, where the peroneal nerve goes by, or so that part was just throbbing and burning every night, and I didn't think too much of it. But now, in retrospect, I have weakness on my right side in dorsiflexion, so pulling the foot up, and that's exactly the nerve and the muscle that innervates that motion, right? So I keep thinking back of all the times that I felt like about the symptoms and how it played out, and I wish I knew what was going on. And this is, I hopefully whoever's watching can catch it at the very beginning stages. So yeah, after that day, I didn't go to the hospital then because I was in too much pain to move. So I couldn't think of outside my mat on the floor. Right? So the next day, I went to sleep and I calmed down, and I was able to go to the hospital or the emergency by myself with a cab or Uber. So I got there, told them my symptoms. I was barely able to sit on the chair properly. Symptoms had subsided, but they were still there, and the backs of my legs started to cramp up all the time, especially when I opened my jaw, which was very strange. I was eating sushi. I would open my jaw, and when I did that, both hamstrings would cramp up, and I'd have to move positions. I went to emergency, and so anyway, yeah. So they took a CT scan of my back and confirmed that there was a herniated disc and maybe some sequestered disc fragments, so basically floating bits of the disc. So that was alarming, but because I wasn't shitting my pants, they told me to go back home. Well, basically that's how I saw it. But basically the doctor said, you're not showing enough symptoms for it to be an emergency, so go home with some pain medication. Come back if it worsens. And at that point, I had numbness in my outside toes on both legs, more on the left, and I had weakness, like I said before, my right foot in dorsiflexion, so bringing the toes up. So I couldn't do it, and that was very scary. And I should have acted up on that a little sooner. I felt that at home, and I didn't do anything about it. I was just focused on the pain, or I was still in shock that I would need surgery for something like that, right? So I wasn't even considering surgery, and so I didn't think it was that serious at first, I guess. I didn't want to believe it anyway. So I went home knowing or thinking that I was going to come back the next day right away to the emergency no matter what, because I didn't want to wait another 2 weeks for the MRI. That's right. I was like, I'm not going to wait another 2 weeks for the MRI. So I went home with that in mind, and then as I was coming home, and for that whole night and the next day, the symptoms did worsen. So I now had what was it? Oh yeah, it was the cramping in the back of my hamstring. So that started to come on full on, and I was barely able to walk. So at that point, I went there in the morning, stayed there. Oh yeah, they took an MRI, a quick one. I've never seen such a quick MRI. It was like 20 minutes. And then they told me to go to the other hospital, VGH. So I took another Uber there. And at the second hospital, the spine specialist and the surgeon, the spine specialist was waiting for me. So he did some more tests, neurological tests like push here, pull there, sensory, and basically told me I need surgery. Explained to me what was happening. So basically there was a huge disc that had slipped, and it was pushing on the nerves at the lumbar region. So after spending a few hours waiting for the surgery, they wheeled me out, and I remember going into the operating room and seeing some X-rays or images of the MRI, and I was really intrigued. I was like, what, peeling, trying to take a look, but I heard somebody say, "Oh, are you looking at the MRI? I don't think it's even yours," or something. And then I'm like, what do you mean it's not mine? What are you going to look at when you're operating? But no, I didn't say that. So anyway, I started to count, right? Count to 10, blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, I wake up and people are yelling at me, push your toe down, push your toe up. And so many people everywhere. Anyway, after the anesthesia wore off, they brought me up to the floor where all the spine patients are, the recovery room, and that was great. They took such good care of me. it was insane how attentive they were and how good they were. Every single nurse that worked there, everybody who works there, they were all super understanding and helpful in every way. So that was amazing. Um, every single one of them. It's what a tough job it is for the nurses um, in any department. But yeah, anyway, they did an incredible job. So after I had a tear in the dura, which is the, I guess, fluid-filled sac that holds the nerves. So during operation, I guess, or I don't even know if it was during or before, but there was a rip, so they had to sew it up. And because of that, I had to lay in bed for a little longer than normal. So 24 hours later, I was able to get out of bed and start walking with the walker. So on the third day, I started to see the physiotherapist and the occupational therapist. So we did some self-care routines to see if I could do it. I'll hop in the bathtub, go to the bathroom, get out of bed, get into bed, things like that. And so that everything went well. And at that point, I was still using the walker. And the physiotherapist said she'll come back the next day and see if I can use some, like a pole, like 2 poles, like ski poles, and then I could go home after that. And I still had the weakness in lifting my foot, my right foot. I guess you could call it was like the early signs or the early beginning or the early onset of drop foot. And on my left foot, I had weakness pushing off, so like pressing down the gas pedal with my left foot. But the next day, I saw the physiotherapist and occupational therapist, and the physio really pushed me to walk without the walker, and I did it right away. And she encouraged me to kind of walk as fast as I could beside her, and so she could have a good gauge of where I was at. And so she said I was fine to go. And yeah, so I must say I'm very lucky the way it turned out and the way that this got resolved as quick as possible. Make sure you rush to the emergency, because if you wait too long, the effects or the consequences could be irreversible. So it's been approximately 2 weeks since my surgery, and I am feeling great. I've been pushing myself to walk every day, a few times a day around the block, and also getting a lot of rest. And I actually started going to the pool in my building a few days ago, and that was the best thing. The hot tub was amazing to be able to go in. And on the first day, I did 2 laps just to see if I could swim again. The second day, I did about 4 or 5 laps and going super slow, obviously, just pretty much floating and going through the motions, and it felt amazing. I think, the third, I think I went 3 times, which was yesterday. Last time was yesterday, and it felt so good. It felt like my body was kind of coming out of like a spider webs, the cobwebs. It was just I was able to move my body, and it didn't feel like it was very restricted anymore. Walking is still it's getting, I'm walking faster, I have better balance and everything, except my right foot is still kind of slapping the floor, especially if I wear harder soles, like hiking shoes. I guess I can show you around, show you how my gait is. Not ready. I'm not ready to run yet. So it's been 12 days since my surgery, and I feel great. I'm able to get out of the house. I'm able to drive, and I have no more pain, which is excellent. I'm enjoying life a lot more. I mean, you really get a sense of how lucky we are when something like this happens. Look at this view. I just noticed these branches. Probably looks better in person. But look at the place I'm at. It's beautiful here. So thank you for watching. I hope I was able to help a lot of people. And if you have any questions about my symptoms at any time during the journey, please let me know. I would be more than happy to share that with you. I know I didn't go into very much detail, but there's just so much going on, so many things that happened, so that I just try to get out as much as I could. So if there's any doubt, if it was confusing, please let me know. I would love to follow up and give you a more clearer picture. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I was able to shed some light, some new information on this situation, on this issue, and I hope you can have a fast and good recovery.